Welcome back once more. This is Sunday edition here on KTN News. Thank you for staying with us here on the broadcast. Let's continue and wrap up this conversation of Kenya's run-up on preparations for that repeat presidential election on Thursday. And we are talking about the IEBC and their preparations. As we've told you before, as we've reported, the first batch of the ballot papers have arrived in the country. They did arrive yesterday. And let's listen to Wafula Chebukati, chairman of the IEBC, talking about how he and the commission is ready, despite what he had said earlier on, that the commission is ready to have a legitimate election come Thursday.
I'm convinced that the Kenyan people, on whose behalf I serve, have the power to determine how to move together as one people. As an advocate of the High Court, I hold that strict compliance to the Constitution and electoral laws in organizing the fresh presidential election is fundamental. The Commission has reviewed the Supreme Court judgment and has developed a matrix on its compliance to all aspects of the Constitution and the law. This has guided all the preparations for the elections with the goal of ensuring transparency, verifiability and accountability.
As you all know, Chebukati has formed that project management team to run the election. And Ezra Chiloba, who has been the subject of much political discussions in this country, will not be part of it, and he will be on leave. Kenyans have been talking about that leave. Commissioner Abdi Guliye did say that the absence of Chiloba will not affect the preparations and the conduct of the election in any way.
His departure will not have much impact in as far as preparations are concerned. The assumption is that Ezra Chiloba was like a one-man show and running the entire commission. That is not the true picture. The commission is run through the commissioners, through plenary decisions, and in addition to that, the Secretariat has its own management meetings where they discuss issues and plans and how to implement actions. And so that is not the correct picture.
And I have with me here in the studio Dismas Mokua, Mark Bichachi, Hesbon Owila, Mutinda Kavemba, and Canisius Meso have been discussing these issues for the last 1.5 hours. Let's now wrap this up. Dismas, let me start with you. Let's talk about that leave by Chiloba. Is it, will it in any way affect the election, or is this what NASA needed?
Well, in my understanding, before you can establish whether or not it matters, we need to answer several questions. Mm-hmm. Number one, who is the accounting officer at IBC? Is it still Mr. Chiloba? Yes. Who is the authorized officer at IBC? Is it still Mr. Chiloba? Yes. Why didn't he take this leave or resign much early? We don't know the answers. So in my view, is a decision to run away a week to the election and take his leave is a waste of time. It's not going to give anybody morale. He would have left a long time ago, because everybody in the Secretariat is still going to work under instructions from Mr. Chiloba, whether or not he's seated at the office, because I suspect he'll have his mobile phone on and he'll be giving instructions. Now, if you don't follow instructions from Mr. Chiloba and you work at IBC because he's the authorized officer, woe unto you when he comes back after 3 weeks. He's going to have you fired. And then, when you form this special project team, what are their terms of reference? Have they been given some sort? Have they been immunized from Chiloba? That if Chiloba makes a call to any of those guys, they're not going to take his calls. And you know that people in the streets, you are saying that he's conveniently taking leave now after he has set up the infrastructure at place, so that whether or not he's around, the infrastructure is still going to work.
All right.
That's number one. Then number two, for me, I find it very curious that IBC is actually inviting reporters to go to Dubai to witness the printing of those ballots. Two questions come to mind. What are those journalists doing there? Are they doing some auditing? Are they doing stock taking? Do they have the capacity to count those ballots and look at the serial features? What exactly are they doing? And the only answer you can come to is that the commissioners, they do not know the role of communications. The role of not communications is not just merely optics, that you've got journalists at the airports receiving ballots or at the factory. That is, I mean, if they have to add any value, they must be auditing to be sure that you said you're going to print 1,000 ballots for a particular electoral area, are there 1,000? But right now, it's just ceremonial. I mean, those journalists go there, probably they're given their per diem, they go back to their hotel room. If anybody wants to engage in a mischievous business, they can still do it. What these guys are supposed to be telling us, what Chebukati has said, that they've come up with a compliance matrix consistent with the Supreme Court's ruling. Now, that is what is supposed to be made public.
This was on our case as journalists. Journalists don't receive the ballot. They're just doing our reporting.
But just imagine, the poor journalists are at the airport. They see the ballots being packed into bales, but they don't know how many are inside there. Like, for instance, during the last election, the journalists were in Dubai, and we were told that we had about 1 million extra ballots. Where are those ballots? Did the journalists follow through to find out where those ballots are?
So we should count them?
Yeah, but if you're not going to count them, then why go there? I mean, they can have the internal guy do the photography and give us the photos.
Mark Vichache, what is your take on this issue?
First, let me rescue the noble profession of journalism. I think a journalist can count. I think a journalist can see how many papers a machine has printed because it is documented. I'm sure a journalist can read. So let's not
It's important to know that I'm a journalist as well. So it's not as if I'm throwing stones in the wrong direction.
Let's not dismiss them too quickly. However, the issue of preparedness, the issue of these elections coming up, let's understand one thing. We do not subject people to processes, or do we subject processes to people? That's the question. In Kenya, we have this belief that from 2007, every time there's an electoral commissioner and an electoral commission, we have fought to kick them out every election cycle. Now, here's the definition of madness. To keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. We've complained since 1997. This is since 2007. This is 2017. We're doing the same thing. The issue is not the individuals. The issue is not Chiloba. The issue is, as Kenyans, we need to respect processes. It's the same way. It's what we do on highways. You find a guy is driving on the right side of the highway on a dual carriageway. He's blocking traffic. And when you pass him, he insults you. Why? Because as Kenyans, we believe that people are above the processes of law. So what we need to do, the IEBC needs to stick to its own processes. Once you have proper processes, then even a class 2 graduate can make those things work because the process is clear, and that's where we need to get to. We need to stop having individuals and have a process within the IEBC that we can trust, and that will even help in reducing the cost of the IEBC, because in other systems, what you have is you have people who come in to volunteer because the process works.
All right.
We need a working process, not people.
Hesbon, it was a top on those irreducible minimums. Ezra Chiloba, he will be on leave. Is that too little, too late?
I think it's too little, too late. And to a large extent, I think this is a mockery of the intelligence of Kenyans. You cannot tell us that 1 week to the election, you've attended to one of the irreducible minimum. And just like Dismas said, the infrastructure for this election is already set, you know. And to the extent that the IEBC was found culpable in the last general election, you had expected that that infrastructure was set up by a totally different team, or a few individuals who are adversely mentioned or were in key positions were to step aside a long time ago. So the fact that Chiloba has stepped aside a few days to the election in itself is a mockery of our intelligence. Now, secondly, I think IEBC is trying so much. You know, it's trying so much, and to some extent, they shoot themselves in the foot. It is not for IEBC or any institution to invite journalists to come and cover what they are doing. And the fact that they do that even calls into suspicion what they are doing. Journalists are not in the business of being invited to cover things. Journalists are the fourth estate. They act on the behest of the public good. If it is of public interest, they will cover it and report it as it is. So we are in a situation where IEBC is telling us that we've done this, we've called journalists. I mean, it's a lot more cosmetic than any other less intelligent person would want to do it. And I think the problem with us here in Kenya, political analysts, politicians, is when there's a serious issue of public concern, we politicize, we trivialize, and then we tribalize. And that is what we are trying to run away. No one was interested in Chiloba living or not living. All Kenyans are interested in a free, fair, and credible election. Exactly. And having somebody live towards the end basically negates the reducible minimum.
If I may respond, you know when you go for marriage counseling and they tell you, Ben, you are the one on the wrong, should your wife marry someone else to fix that problem? You see, we must learn that institutions need to keep people, especially when nothing criminal has been proven. You need to keep people so that the institutional memory grows. This thing of replacing people all the time does not work.
All right. But I think that is the trivializing that I'm talking about. We are not talking about replacing people. We are talking about processes. And the moment we divorce our eyes from looking at individuals who are culpable as people who are being replaced. These are individuals who are culpable. They are individuals who are responsible for this country spending billions.
But
billions to have another election.
Is it not factual to say that the number of people, the turnover of people at the IEBC, in whichever form it has been is a fact? I mean,
so, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's a problem.
Why focusing about the turnover rather than the issues that bring about this turnover? We should focus on the issues. You know, when you listen to Wafula Chebukati say that I've made up my mind, why are you making your mind now? This guy took an oath of office.
All right.
It is not a question of making mind.
All right, Mutinda.
Yes, of all things that Chebukati has said, I like the bit that they looked at the Supreme Court. They have a matrix that has put in place processes to ensure that they're in compliance. If there's one thing they need to focus on, it is what he has said. And that one is irrespective of the individuals. Actually, it will be very easy for them to hold someone culpable if any of the IEBC secretariat or commissioners operate outside that matrix that they've all agreed on. One of the biggest problems that the IEBC did is to invite the public into their own issues. And this they've done through different ways. The leakage of the memos, the issue of casting aspersions on other commissioners because you differ with them. You see, it is easy for you to say that the 4 commissioners are taking orders from certain quarters, but why don't you think that the reverse can be true? They can also decide to accuse you of also taking the instructions from other quarters. So that is one thing that the IEBC should desist. They should desist inviting the public into their issues because they have a duty, they have a mandate that is constitutional that they have to deliver on. So let them focus on that agreed upon matrix, which has set a process to give us a free, fair, credible, verifiable election so that the person who operates outside whatever matrix they've agreed, the process that they've set, then those are the people who should be held culpable if anything goes wrong.
All right. Bwana Meso, tell us your thoughts on Wafula Chebukati, Ezra Chiloba on leave. Let's talk about this very quickly.
We have a trust issue. Chiloba does not define who becomes the president in Kenya. Okay. Chiloba having gone on leave does not mean that he has left IEBC. So what Chebukati should do is to stick to what he has said, that he has made up his mind to deliver free, fair, and credible elections. The problem is, once he has come up with a matrix that is going to deliver free, fair, and credible elections, the problem, one of maybe a party or a political party needs Chebukati to give those matrix or to give how. It's just like you are prepared for exam and then you want the examiner to send you exam paper for you to be seen to be going to sit for an exam that you are going to pass. So what we should be doing is encouraging processes to take place as per the Constitution. Now is where, here is where now journalists come in. Please, if possible, let the journalists, every polling station must have a journalist actually to give feedback or to air everything that is taking place at that particular polling station, so that in case of any violation, let even the public see that actually people voted and the results were not announced as per what has been counted. Not just to hear and wait to be told that the processes were not done right. There is a Form X which was not correctly signed. Since Chebukati has stated there shall be no interference from political party or any external parties. Let us give him opportunity to deliver free, fair, and credible election so that Kenya can move forward. Remember today, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are politicians. It's only after 26 that now when Kenya has given itself or herself a head of state, let the head of state now unify us.
All right. Thank you, Meso. Let me ask you, gentlemen, one final question. Let me start with you, Bwana Meso.
Yes.
Will there be an election on the 26th of this month, and will it be legitimate? In 30 seconds only.
Hearing the preparations from IEBC, they've stated that there shall be election on 26th. That is according to IEBC, the only body that is mandated to carry out the election. And if it will be legitimate is, yes, depending on who is the person holding that election. If it's IEBC holding the election, it will be legitimate.
Thank you.
Because it's the only body that is mandated to do that.
Thank you. Mutinda.
Same
question, very quickly.
We have a constitution. Kenya is a country governed by the constitution and the rule of law. Actually, what would be illegal is not to hold that election. So let us be very clear. It would be very unfortunate for us to be, moving out of the rules that we agreed on at the convenience of certain individuals.
Thank you.
So the thing is, we are going to have an election because that is what the Constitution says. That is what the Supreme Court affirmed.
Hezbollah, are we going to have an election? Is it going to be legitimate?
An election without Raila Amolo Odinga is going to be Uhuru Kenyatta's coronation.
All right, birthday party, as they call it. Mark.
Number one, there will be an election. Some places will return zero, which is also an election. They will not participate. And then after that, which is to me the most important thing, Kenya will have a conversation about where we want our nation to move. That's the most important one, a conversation among the Kenyan people.
This must be your thoughts.
Well, Kenya is now a divided nation, and Barack Obama said something a few days ago. He says that if you're going to win an election by dividing the people, probability of you uniting people after winning that election is almost a nightmare. And in my view, that's what should advise Mr. Chebukati. That if he believes he can deliver a free, fair, and credible election, he needs to go ahead.
Thank you.
But if he believes that he's not going to do, let him cancel the election or resign.
Thank you. That's where we leave it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dismas Mokwa, political risk analyst, political commentators Mark Bichache, Hezbon Owila, and political strategist Mutinda Kavemba, as well as Canisius Meso. Thank you so much for joining us for the last 2 hours or so to discuss the biggest political and governance issues as Kenya prepares for that repeat presidential election in the next 3 days and 17 hours. Join us every Sunday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm Ben Kitili. We leave you with Siasa Files. Here is retired President Daniel Arap Moi.
Nilisema mwaka wa 98 kwamba nitajiuzulu ama nitastaafu kipindi hiki cha miaka 5 ikiisha. Wengine hawakuamini kwa sababu wanaamini power katika kontinenti la Afrika, kwamba kuna mtu anaweza kuacha power ya urais. Power iko kwa wananchi, na sisi tu ni wadhamini yao.